There you have it, reference material of choice, Volkswagen Jetta service manual from Bentley Publishers, and the very own Jetta models owner's manual from Volkswagen. The 2009 Volkswagen Jetta TDI with DSG transmission is now due for an engine oil change. To access the oil filter for removal, you must first come over to the upper sound absorber panel, which is this big plastic composite-like thing up here, and at each of the four corners you need to gently lift. Be careful not to manhandle it because these are prone to breaking. You just simply lift it off its little plunger back here. If that doesn't work, try lifting the other corner first. Sometimes when you first break off a corner, it'll make the other corner come off much more easily, and you will avoid breaking the plastic. And as you can see right here, last corner is a little tough to get to, but nonetheless taken care of. And there you have it, access to the engine compartment, all the lines, most of them anyways, and right down here is where you can access your oil filter. For that you will need a 1 1/4 inch socket. I recommend a swivel, and if you don't have a swivel to it, then get the shallow socket with an adapter, a swivel adapter, and that's how you can remove that. To gain access to the oil drain plug, you will need to raise the car on jacks and remove the lower sound absorber panel, this guy right here. To remove that, you will need two types of Torx screwdrivers or bits, and they are the size of T25 and T30. You will have a total of 9 screws to remove. The back of the sound absorber panel will have 3 screws to remove, and those are for the T30 size. Those come with this somewhat permanent washer on them, so make note of that. And then the other 9 screws, they come with no washers, and there are 4 on this side, 4 on the opposite side, and 1 at the very front center. Once you remove those screws, the panel just slightly slides back, and you can drop it out of position, move it aside, and you will have access to the oil drain plug. I was able to acquire my oil change kit from idparts.com. idparts.com, and they sent me, I believe it was a 5-liter bottle, and the oil filter, which came with those 2 packings. One of them's already on the filter, and the oil drain plug, which has its own washer. These plugs need to be replaced each time you do an oil filter change, because those are crushable washers, and they might not be effective enough the next time around, and you might have a leak. This was for $46.95 without shipping and handling. To remove the oil filter, I needed to remove the upper sealing cap. There is a lower sealing cap. You will see it once you go underneath the vehicle, the front of the vehicle. You will see another cap that looks just like it, but do not remove that one. You are only interested in the upper cap, the upper sealing cap. To remove that, as I mentioned before, you need a shallow socket. Go for a shallow socket, 1 1/4 inch. Here I have a 1/2 inch drive swivel, and a 6-inch extension works best for me with a 1/2 inch drive ratchet right here. The torque value, when you put this back on, the torque value, as stated in the Bentley Publishers Jetta manual is 25 Newton meters or 18 foot-pounds. I used the dial torque wrench, and I checked the torque, and it came off at approximately 20 foot-pounds. So the dealership, which was the folks who last did my oil change, they were actually following proper values. Here's the oil filter pulled out. One thing you should do when you first brake torque and you unthread the cap off is make sure you let it sit in there for a while, so that way the filter drips as much as possible, drains as much as possible, because the fit through here is kind of tight. So as you start to pick it up and wiggle it out, you're gonna have to twist it and turn it here this way and that way. You're gonna have oil coming all over the place. So do yourself a favor and don't take it out right away. Just let it sit in there for a bit. Give it about 3 to 5 minutes, whatever, and then go ahead and wiggle it out of there and set it on your pan, and then you can remove the O-ring and pull out the old filter, take a look inside, clean any debris, and you can slip the new filter back on and then just drop it back in there. While you're down here, just take a quick look, make sure there's no chunks of anything, any foreign debris, and you should be good to go. Now, there was a particular way of taking these off, or let me show you here. See these little tangs right here? They've all got little catches on them. So the filter that was on there, you kind of have to pop it off, and then once you pop it off, then you can just pop the new one back on. Here's a look at the inside. It should just come right in. There's no O-rings on the inside diameter here. You just pop it right on. Make sure these catches come on. And there's an O-ring right there at the very end. Make sure that's there before you install it. Aside from that, once you've got the new O-ring on the cap, you can pop this in, put that down, and bottom it out by hand as much as you can, and then finish it off with a torque wrench. Now, there is an actual torque value on this. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to try and give it a shot here. It says 25 Nm for 25 Newton meters, which translates roughly to about 18 foot-pounds, which confirms the value in the Bentley Publisher's Jetta service manual. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I was talking about, having to kind of wiggle this in there. Remember, here are the tangs, and before you slip this in, they're just slightly lubricated with some new oil. Here we go. Slip that around this way, and once I got it down in there, then I can push it down. You should just feel like a very subtle thud, and that's the seal slipping through the point where it's supposed to be at. It should look centered. That's pretty centered. Okay, and then I can go ahead and take the cap. Make sure you lubricate that O-ring slightly, and bring that in there. And okay, you can start off by turning it counterclockwise to make sure that you're catching your threads, and then start to bring it clockwise. And I've got contact here. There you go. Did you hear that snap? That means that the little tangs on the filter caught the cap on the inside, so we're good there. And I can go ahead and finish turning it, bottom that filter cap out by hand, and then I can just grab my torque wrench with my 1 1/4 inch socket and swivel and bring it up to about 18 foot-pounds of torque. Okay, so here we go. The oil drain plug, it's at the very back end of the oil pan, and it's covered by this, the oil pan is covered by this lining. So you don't have to necessarily remove this. You can access it back here, the oil drain plug. Just remember that before you do this, you should have a new drain plug, because the drain plug will come with a gasket or a washer. It's a crushable gasket, so it's a one-use gasket is what I'm trying to say. So make sure you do have a brand new drain plug, because when you remove this one, you're pretty much out of luck. You will need that new drain plug because, again, that gasket acts as a sealer, and you don't want to have any drips after you install the drain plug. Okay, so here's an exact view of the drain plug. Again, it's at the very back, and just make sure you have a pan underneath it and catch all the oil. You should have approximately 4 liters because that's what the owner's or service manual states that is in this pan. 4 liters, roughly 4 quarts. While I'm waiting for the oil pan to drain out, I wanted to show you this again in a little bit more detail. If you notice right here, the gasket doesn't come off. A brand new one, it doesn't come off. It's not supposed to. Okay, that's because they want to make sure that you do have a gasket on there. There is no other O-ring or means of sealing but this gasket right here, this crushable gasket. Make sure you use a new one. I can't stress that enough. The size for this hexagonal head right here is 3/4 of an inch. I use a shallow socket with a torque wrench, and the torque values stated in the manual are 22 foot-pounds, which equates to about 30 Newton meters. So again, 22 foot-pounds. Not very much. Okay, so to sum it all up, you've replaced the filter and you've installed a brand new oil drain plug. At this point, now we can go ahead and remove the oil cap to service the engine with fresh oil, and we're going to go over and remove the cap. You have to twist it. It's kind of stiff, but it gives way, and then you just lift it straight up. Make sure the seal around here, it's like a flap seal, make sure that's not cut. Otherwise you may have to order a new cap, but if that's good, set that aside, and voila, that is where you're going to drop your oil. It is recommended by the Volkswagen service manual to drop in the oil about half a quart at a time. You don't want to over service the engine, because then you'd have to remove the drain plug to remove the excess oil, and at that point, if you would remember, you would have to have another plug. You wouldn't be able to reuse that one plug. So the engine requires 4 liters, approximately 4.2 quarts, and the Bentley Publisher's Jetta Service Manual recommends that we fill it up to 3.5 liters, 3.5 liters, and then after waiting a moment, letting the oil settle down, check the dipstick and see where you stand. If you need more oil, then you add a little more as needed, and you want to add a little bit at a time and give it some time to settle down. Okay, here are the final things you should do. Make sure that when you add the oil, the car is level, so you're going to have to lower the car. Number 2, when you initially start the engine, make sure you don't race the engine. Just run it idle and wait for the oil pressure light to go out. Also, make sure you do a leak check. You want to check the oil filter cap and the oil drain plug, and make sure that you're not dripping oil. But again, if you torqued everything down to the specification and the O-rings were lubricated enough, everything should be just fine. But you always want to do a leak check, because you just never know. Also, the thing you should know is that when you add the sound absorber panels on the lower side, you will need to raise the car back up so you can install that.